Originally, the SMILE project was created to be computers that passed information back and forth amongst one another that indicated this idea of emotions and feelings. The original concept was kind of taking a play on the shoot-'em-up video game using similar types of game technology, and then actually kind of flipping it around and making it about feelings and about empathy and about expressing oneself's emotions. So what I've done is I've created a software system where what it allows me to do is it allows me to diagram my understandings of that particular robot's behaviors. What an artist always does, has no choice of doing, is embodying themselves in whatever they're doing, whether they're an actor or a dancer or a musician. What I'm doing is that I've created a system where I actually can define emotional states and then apply them to that particular entity. I guess what I wanted to do was embody the same kind of ideas that historically have made sculpture such an interesting medium with the things that we can do now, which included the idea of the gesture not being static, but the gesture actually moving. With the drawing not necessarily being static or just one moment, but being many, many moments. And to make this more interesting, rather than it being a machine that's constantly repeating itself, the idea of actually giving it its own consciousness allows it to continually be interesting. It's not, you can't predict what this thing's going to do next. And at the same time, it's behaving in such a way, or it's expressing itself in such a way that as human beings we understand it. The fact that a robot seeing somebody could change its behavior and the effect this has had on the audience is actually quite compelling. And I had this experience at ArtBots where people were coming to the robot and the interaction that was taking place was magical to them. They felt recognized, even though this is an inanimate object. They wanted to touch it, they wanted to get close to it. We had children and adults hugging the robot, which was like totally mind-blowing. So there was something about the fact that it was moving, and not only that, and it was making sound, recognizable sounds, and it was making faces, but the fact that it recognized people back caused people to feel connected with it, to feel safe with it. One woman explained it that when she got close to the piece and it had this big smile on it, that it was just so inviting and so compelling that she felt like getting closer to it. Each of the animation cells that appear on the screen as the robot's making his facial expressions are all hand-drawn, and they all have these very intense graphite marks. It is actually very important to me that each of these is a hand-drawn cell. I think that it embodies something that the work wouldn't otherwise have. I think that this adds soul to the piece, that the fact that there's things handmade about it. And so this sort of led me down this road of creating multiple machines with their own particular personalities, using these drawings as a way of expressing themselves. And I started adding sound, and I say eventually this led to the concept of these robots that could actually express themselves not only with sound and facial expressions, but also with the use of gesture.
Awesome. So incredible.
These are maquettes I created to make it easier to visualize them. What they sort of represent now in a way is the ability to be able to play with that idea of group dynamic on a model level. And so a person might walk into the room maybe from over here, and if these two robots were interacting with one another, both maybe stop if they recognized the person was in the room and felt that way, and sort of slowly move their heads towards the viewer. The technology is that they're passing information through a wireless network that has information about where its head is in proximity to the other robot, how far they are, and what particular behavior they're playing out with one another. Once any one of the robots receives these packets of information from other robots, they can decide based on a probabilistic algorithm whether or not they want to interact with that other robot, and if they do, what the consequences of that start to become. I find myself as a visual artist suddenly in the role of director, and that's a role that I'm interested in playing with, but one that I don't feel I'm ultimately as qualified to play with as someone who's been doing that all their life. And so I'm interested in seeing what a musician might do. You know, create some kind of weird probabilistic chorus. I think would be quite interesting. Or even an orchestra where they're each playing a different instrument in how they're emoting with their bodies and with their faces and with the sounds. I'm interested in working with dancers, someone who's an expert in using their body, and being interested in seeing what could come of that. But the possibilities of what can happen with these 5 created pieces is pretty endless.
Dun, dun, dun. Do do do. Dun dun dun.